Now that all the schedule is in place and the fest is about to begin, what do you think the 31st Black Harvest Film Festival is offering that no other previous fests have offered?
You know, we have a couple Chicago premieres, so we've already got the rest of the festivals beat there, okay?
Cool.
Um, Films that have not been screened anywhere beyond the Siskel thus far, as of tomorrow. We'll have some films that weren't screened at some of the other local festivals, and just really excited to welcome folks into the space that is the Gene Siskel Film Center, and that it's so unique. It's one of the very few art house cinemas in the nation. Black Harvest is like no other in that the lobby at the film center becomes the site of communion, of fellowship, um,
Nice.
for networking. It just depends on what you're there for. And I think I always tell people, if you've never been before, prepare to be surprised. You don't really know why you're there until you're there. And I see, folks enter the theaters, T1 and T2. When they come out, there's this new life. There's something that has been breathed into them from screen to the audience. So
That's awesome. So your opening night celebration has become a traditional showcase for short film. What have you noticed about the new voices emerging in the short film space, and what is exciting about short films to you?
wow, I love short form, just cinema. Um, I love the challenge to tell this, stories, good stories feel complete in many ways. Um, Even if there's answers, you at least have the answers. There's sometimes you watch a film, you're like, what was that? And that's the only question you have, right?
Many
And
times.
so many times. And I think with the short filmmakers that I'm seeing, just I'm like, how crafty can you get? Like, I know folks aren't working with huge budgets because I'm talking to these filmmakers and they're crowdfunding, or they're grabbing their homies, their friends, they're asking their professors,
Yeah.
to underwrite things, and they're getting things done. And I can say across the sort of landscape of Black cinema, that's always been the life source, out of necessity. I mean, folks have not always run to fund Black film, and specifically when it comes to independent film, that's where the brilliance happens.
Yes.
is that level of resourcefulness, but still, elevate and transform what we what we consider to be cinema. I think that's a thing that I'm constantly thinking through and speaking to, is this idea of filmmakers asking what becomes possible within this landscape. Like, what becomes the limit or the limitlessness of the genre? And so many filmmakers are doing that. And of course, we're celebrating Khalil Joseph on the 9th, whose film Black News Terms and Conditions does just that, and that it is immersive like a music video. It uses, sound, and the scoring is excellent, as well as this assemblage of media. So I'm seeing a lot of challenge taking place in short form cinema, but also in features like Black News.
Excellent. Not to give too far ahead, but your closing night film is a rarely seen early 1970s film directed by the legendary Ossie Davis called Black Girl. As a person in a different American experience than the woman in the story, what do you learn about the past when you see such cinema?
Oh my goodness. So the beautiful thing about this film in particular, and I'll just say, being a film programmer, it feels like being a wizard sometimes, because it's like, how do these things just sort of align in this way?
Great.
I first saw Black Girl in 2020, height of COVID shutdown. So no one was in the movie theaters, right?
Right.
It was home screenings.
Hmm.
And I can recall just watching the film and ending and going like, I want folks to experience this. And to answer your question, in telling the story, it is that 1972, in the conditions for Black women, Black girls, because Billie is young. I think Billie's like 18.
Okay.
So she's a young woman. And at the time, I was a bit younger. I was closer to Billie's age, and it was so resonant to my own experiences and the
Hmm.
experiences um, of the Black feminine interiority of it all. And you really watch Billie and her family navigate what devotion to self looks like. So there's this cause for the race and this devotion to family, devotion to, race or the race cause, and then ultimately devotion to herself. And I would be hard pressed to find any Black girl or woman who has not had those moments, whether it's deciding, what to eat or, what job we'll take, right? It's that is the sort of double consciousness
Yeah.
of being both Black and female,
Yeah.
or Black and of any other, marginalized gender spectrum. But specifically, I think for Black girls and women, it'll really hit home. And for those who don't share in those, that this very unique experience, it'll certainly give perspective, and that's what the film festival is for, right? Is to share these emerging and also historic perspectives.
Right. Since this is a Chicago festival and you talked a little about some premieres, what Chicago centric films stood out to you, especially as it defines the Black experience in the Windy City?
We have so many. There is a special presentation, and they're sort of it's a double featurette, I guess. One is called Sapphire and Crystals, which chronicles the fine artist collective, Sapphire and Crystals, which is a homegrown Black women's art collective. And, the legacy of their work spans so many exhibitions, so many community programs. And David Weathersby, who is Black Harvest Film Festival alum, and also serves on the community council, is the director of that film. So we'll show that film, and then we'll also be showing Essence McDowell's film, which chronicles just Black women being very prolific in the city, from Ida B. Wells to contemporary Black women activists, organizers, artists, just cultural workers. And that screening will be super special because, like I said, we're showing two films back to back, and we're putting everyone in conversation. So another one for Chicago, Restore Fellowship documentary is excellent. That film is looking at taking a group of system impacted individuals, so folks who have been incarcerated, right, and are taking them to Benin, West Africa, bringing them back to the motherland.
That's
And you really
interesting.
see, yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Really thinking about reparations and
Right.
what it could look like to identify a common ground for liberation. I mean, there's Chicago. We also have Shorts from the Block. I mean, there's just this. We're really focusing on homegrown talent. The
So
festival
great.
was founded by Sergio Mims, the late
Yeah.
great. We always have to say his name, and so many other Black filmmakers, cinephiles, just stakeholders in this beautiful film landscape we have here in Chicago. And so we really want to honor that in the 31st year.
So your bio states a practice that explores the nuances of Black life across space and time. What do the nuances contain that the general community never considers, and how has your practice enriched your life?
I love that. What a generous question. That nuance is really rooted in the feeling of it all. So what can't be quantified or qualified, by the academy or whomsoever, is an expert on the Black community, right?
Yeah.
I think you know, that nuance is, it's a spiritual thing. And as a programmer, when I'm asked, I mean, I spoke to like being a wizard. I mean, a lot of this is being nimble enough to embrace, you know, the uncertainty of it all. Black people have had to do that a lot, just because of the conditions, right? And it's not just because like, oh, we just these are just they're just like, no, there are some people who are very hard pressed to oppress others, and understanding the historical disenfranchisement of that. What keeps us going as a people is that spiritual thing. Like I said, that can't be, you know, you can try to write about it. You can, you know, I think the highest form of that nuance is that expression, is Black expression, Black ecstatics, right? When you're singing a song, when you're having that visceral experience, and that's the embodiment of it. So that's me being a Black person. But I think I know that other folks tap into it because I look at K-pop and all the genres across the world. I'm like, hey, well, you're just doing Black stuff, but in your own font. In your own font. But this is very like, there's something to it that is beyond the joy that we embody as a people, and the affinity, the appreciation. I could go on and on.
Right.
About just the value of the sort of ancestral memory, and that is just so potent. And I'm interested in not qualifying it for anyone else, but at least offering a space for the Black experience within this historical record. I mean, that's like, we understand the erasure that has taken. We're living in the wake of a lot of erasure, right?
Sure.
And so it's our job to steward and this cultural preservation. In my personal practice, I'm devoted to that. And I'm also devoted to championing this idea that we are not defeated, because look at our ancestors.
Right on.
You know, we're not defeated. Anyone could be in power, and we're still here.
There has been a historical shift in the last generation for Black women who are graduating college at a rate 10% above Black men and are emerging as significant leaders in virtually all areas of government, law, and commerce. In your observation, what has driven this uptick in education and leadership, and how has it enriched both the Black culture and America?
It's so interesting. I'll answer it with a story if I can.
Sure.
My grandparents were born in Arkansas to sharecroppers. They picked cotton. They were pulled out of school to pick cotton. They didn't wear shoes. They couldn't afford shoes. Okay, this is the U.S. This is, my grandmother's still living. I mean, this is a history that is not really even a history. It's
Right.
our present, because these folks are still living, right? My grandparents would go on to migrate to Chicago. Yay. And my grandma was attending, they went to Hyde Park Academy first, and then they went to Kennedy King. My grandfather was cheating off of my grandmother's test. But because of the conditions at the time,
Right.
you know, my grandmother dropped out, because it was like, which one of y'all is this is? And so my grandma dropped out. So a lot of that is like, we've been just the coldest. Not saying we are more, you know, endowed than our male counterparts, because
Right.
we need each other. Like, all Black children need Black men, Black queer people need Black straight people, and so forth and so forth. We are all of us on earth. We gonna need each other. Okay. But with that, I think in a recent, so I shared that, and I say in a recent conversation, like literally a week and a half ago, I was talking to my grandma, she's 92.
Wow.
And she was just telling me that like she couldn't vote until 1966. Like, we were the last people to vote. So it's like, you're gonna see the statistics are off because y'all oppressed us in these very particular ways for so long. It's like we've been waiting at the door. we're just breaking the door down. All of these ideas that, you know, we really want to rectify, which is why, to bring it back home to media and this festival in particular, you won't see any struggle love films. Like any film, and this is a common trope, and I want everyone to pay attention to this. Why does a Black woman have to decide between her career and being loved by a Black man? Divisive media. And these are films that, you know, Black women might be right. I mean, these are the narratives, you know, that have been fed to us, and then we, you know, sort of reappropriate it. But you won't see that in Black Harvest, because I think, you know, there's enough of those narratives out there.
Right.
And we're interested in presenting narratives that beyond respectability politics, right? I mean, beyond, you know, looking a certain way to whomsoever. It is about really embracing the expanse of life and our birthright, which is why do we have to negotiate our being loved and financial stability, or, you know, success? We can have it all. As you are at the festival, think about what you're seeing and what you're seeing when you know, stream on Netflix, because that is the other, to answer that first question, that's what sort of sets us apart too.
Okay, finally, was there one particular film in the festival, short or feature, that really touched your soul from the point of view of your life experience and perspective, and why?
I'm gonna say Seeds. Seeds by Brittany Shine. It's gotten a lot of critical acclaim recently.
Cool.
A film that centers Black land stewards in the American South. I just shared a couple, you know, stories from my lineage and my heritage. And like I said, I mean, that is a story that binds so many people across race, you know, demographics, and certainly across diaspora. Black folks, you know, all people have historically stewarded the land, but especially Indigenous communities, you know, have had this complicated relationship to it as well, because, you know, my grandparents picked cotton and didn't get paid. It really gets a little spooky for me too,
Sure.
you know, speaking to it, because it's like, is that slavery? Like, what is really happening there? You doing unpaid labor? And so the film, you know, is super close to home for me, and the story is just so important to share, because so many Black Chicagoans are descendants of the Great Migration.
Yes.
And that is truly the spirit of the Black Chicagoan, is understanding that we come from the South. You know, people from other places are like, y'all sound country. It's like, oh, okay, well, a couple generations ago, yes,
Yeah.
we were land
You were
stewards, and we were living on the land. Yeah, yeah.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2025.